Hey, it's another Zac Efron sports movie. I wonder if this one is fun, whimsical, and for families.
Hold up.
What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel starring Harris Dickinson, Jeremy Allen White, Zac Efron, directed by Sean Durkin. This is The Iron Claw. I was so excited after that trailer. Does the movie deliver? Let's discuss. This is the true story of the inseparable Von Erich brothers who made history in the intensely competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s. Of course, it is rated R for language, some sexuality, suicide, drug use. So, some very important topics that this movie is handling and dealing with, but on its surface, it is a family-centric, brotherly movie where our main character of Kevin, there are a lot of people at the forefront of this story, but I would say Zac Efron is the lead, but he is surrounded by his brothers, and that's basically who he has to confide in all throughout. They are inseparable to a degree, even though there is that tension and some jealousy between them, because all of them are trying to impress their father. Their father played brilliantly by Holt McCallany. If you don't know him from other projects, Mindhunter comes to mind. I think he's awesome in that. But in this film, there should be more supporting performances talked about when it comes to the Oscars. There should be more in general with The Iron Claw. I believe this movie is good enough, quality enough, and emotional enough to take a spot for Best Picture. I'm not saying it should win.
Maybe.
Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be a film that will inevitably be overlooked. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about this story and what it will mean to so many people watching, specifically those who are aware of these brothers in real life, because this is a true story, and not a ton was known about the story as much at the time, but since then there have been countless documentaries and movies and projects that have come out about these brothers, their struggles, what they had to deal with, and how those today can recount that. One project in particular that actually my cousin Joseph Burke worked on heavily, called Heroes of World Class. That's one that I would recommend. But any project you encounter about these brothers is going to be emotional. It's an emotional true story. And I didn't know how emotional I would get while watching this film. One, because I didn't know all of the details. But as you continue to watch, your heart will break more and more. I'm going to make the comparison, Manchester by the Sea. This is the WWE version of that. You could also compare it to a film like The Wrestler that was, just as emotional, just in a very different way. But it just feels while you're watching The Iron Claw that you are watching a true story. And that's pretty cool because Zac Efron is the main guy. Zac Efron plays Kevin. Didn't feel like Zac Efron. This is by far his best performance. And I've always liked him. I grew up with him, High School Musical. Those were the days. Come on.
Everybody's always talking at me.
But this is something else. I've never seen this out of the guy. When you are watching the sequences between he and his father, him taking in this information and just kind of remaining calm and still while, Holt, as Fritz, drills this information into him, you can see it in his eyes. You can see it in the subtle movements all across his body, how he is so committed to this role, and his character is so complex by doing the most simple things. And he's a quiet character. Kevin is not loud, and that is proven to us early on in the film when his brothers are like, hey, you've got to speak up and say something. You're great in the ring, but you have to be more than that to be in the WWE, and that's what really starts to mess with his character. I'm not good enough, and that escalates and causes more of a division between he and his father. And then you have Harris Dickinson, who plays his brother in David, and David is much more outspoken. Now, the body's not chiseled by the gods like Zac Efron's is in this film, but they each have their own skill set. Obviously, the other brother is Jeremy Allen White, Kerry. Incredible performance, dealing with a lot of his own issues on the side. And I love how the film, if you take anything away from this review, just know that I love how the movie doesn't focus as much on the wrestling and the wrestling sequences and the WWE of it all, even though that's entertaining. That's something I want to see. And maybe before the movie, I would have said, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see emotions and family dynamics. Give me stuff in the ring, because the stuff in the ring is fantastic. It's filmed exquisitely. You get these wide shots, some of the angles where Efron's jumping. I mean, it's just really cool to watch. If you're a big fan of the WWE, I consider myself a casual fan. I think you're going to eat those sequences up. But what really worked for me is when the film became more of that and was focused on being a character study, not just of one character, not just of Zac Efron as Kevin, of Kerry, of David, Fritz, obviously, their father, and Mike. Mike, he's like the forgotten sibling. He's the guy who's just kind of in the background, and you can see it build up in the first act. It's like he's not good enough for his dad. His dad's one of those people that ranks his kids. Now, sometimes people do that, prime in real life. People do that as a joke. It's funny. It's a gag. Ha ha. But Fritz is being serious. And that's the kind of dad that he is. And as we continue to learn more about his character as a father, it's great that he's instilling this, what he perceives to be as confidence in his kids and all of this. But no, as we move into what really makes him tick and what pushes him to push them, you start to see that this is just a really bad and somewhat abusive situation altogether. And the film really chooses to focus on that and how it gets in their head and how it drives them and pushes them and tears them apart at the end of the day. But this family, and they keep talking about this family curse, and it does feel that way because of what they have to go through as siblings. Like I said, all they have is each other. They confide in each other. Even their mom, who's just kind of relegated to the background because of how overwhelming their dad is, what they went through as kids as well, with another sibling. So there's just so much heartbreak to be had and felt in this film. Now, luckily, Efron's character in Kevin, he does get someone to confide in other than his brothers, and I believe that really helped him in the situations that feel dire. Lily James plays that character. She does a wonderful job, and there are so many moments between those two, and I'm thinking to myself, if he didn't have her, what would he have? Who would he be able to confide in? Because his brothers, they each have something they're dealing with. Now, on its surface, it looks great. They are on top of the world at one point in this film. All of them. The entire family. And Fritz, he's eating it up. And I believe that's the moment in the movie where you can look at it and say, all right, I'm filled with joy. Nothing can tear me down. But the movie gets very emotional by the end. And it's not going to be something that works for everyone. Some people are going to watch it and say, well, it's too sad, it's too much, and I'm not enjoying this. I will never watch this movie again. That's fine. It's not one that I want to turn on every other weekend.
I am having a very bad day.
But it's definitely a film that handles its emotions well, and I thought the way that they build to each moment towards the end of the film worked. Now, there were points where I do wish they wouldn't have skipped over a couple of things about a couple of characters. Maybe Kerry, Jeremy Allen White, could have gotten a little bit more to do on screen. There's a lot for him to do off screen. And, I get the focus being so much on Kevin and David at one point, but I did want a little bit more from White because he's so good in the role. And you could also watch a couple of sequences at the end and say, after all of this, you get kind of these cheesy moments, but those moments are earned because this movie is so well directed. I talked about the cinematography. I thought Durkin's direction was fantastic. Obviously the script has to come together and everything, but the visuals are haunting at points. They use different styles, use different filmmaking techniques. I love the way that the music comes in and out, and all in all, The Iron Claw has every bit of emotional impact that I expected, but even more. And even though it's going to be a one-time watch for a lot of people, I believe this one-time watch is a better experience than most of the movies that I've seen this year that I would watch 2 or 3 times. Before I give you my score, what is the best A24 movie of the year so far? Is this Zac Efron's best performance? And there's room. Hop on the Oscar train, man. We have to make this happen. Spread the word. You have to see the movie first, obviously. The Iron Claw features Zac Efron's best performance yet. This shocking true story hits hard. What begins as a familiar family drama morphs into a powerful look at emotional abuse and how far someone can be pushed. Also, Holt McCallany is incredible. It's a powerful film that moves at a pace that, again, feels slow at times. I believe that's warranted. The ending has some moments of cheese. I think those are warranted. Sure, I needed more development from some of these other characters, but that's okay at the end of the day. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more reviews soon. Go watch this film.